Hi my friend, if your music doesn't sound powerful or high quality enough, there's a 97% chance that your kick sample sucks. This is why pro artists have massive libraries of drum samples and spend ludicrous amounts of time shaping the perfect kick. But what if you don't have a massive library or days to create the perfect kick, and you just want to fast track all of that to start using the awesome kick you've been hearing in your favorite songs straight away? So in this video, I'm going to reveal what this new kick stealing system is, how it's such a massive improvement over other methods out there, and some adjustments you can do to make sure that this works perfectly 100% of the time. But first, you must be wondering if stealing like this is legal, and if this powerful new system is even safe to use for official releases. Although drum samples are usually short and common enough to not infringe on any copyright, this method actually also uses a new feature built right inside of Ableton to find samples that are similar to the one that you want to steal. This means that you can just use the similar sample, or that you can layer the stolen sample with a bunch of similar samples to create something that sounds professional, close to the original, but is still totally unique enough to be your own. And if you want to save time by downloading the template in Ableton Rack in this video, there's a link in the description to grab that, as well as over 21 full project files based on tracks from the Beatport Top 100 charts, with new files being added weekly. This tutorial is made easier by properly setting up a reference and arrangement track in your DAW, so if you want to learn how to do that, make sure you check out the link in the description for the 80/20 music production playlist right here on YouTube. With that out of the way, let's jump into this. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is make sure you press the S key so that you've soloed the reference track so that we can actually hear it. And now what we want to do is we're going to use the arrangement track that we've built to find out where in the songs we can find just the drums, because we want to find that area where there's just the drums so we can build our track in that spot. For example, over here, we can hear there's drums and there's also bass. And then over here on the drop, there's drums, bass, vocals, a bunch of other stuff going on. So usually we're going to want to find something in the intro and outro. And this is why it can be very useful to make sure you look for extended mixes of your reference tracks, so that it usually has some kind of drum intro and drum outro. So first, let's check out the intro. So for the intro, there's some bass there. It can work, but ideally we want to find a spot without any bass, so it's just the drum. So let's go ahead and listen to the outro. So there's some vocals there, so let's kind of scrub through this area and see if we can find a spot where it's just the drums. Maybe there. Around here is pretty good. So I like that spot right there. What you can also do is, so this spot here, we're gonna just grab a 8-bar loop. So grab 1, 2, 3, 4, press Command L, or you can press this area right here. It'll create a loop. So now we have a little loop area. Let's go ahead and play this. What you'll also want to double check is if you click into the reference track, I have this spectrum analyzer here. And with this, we can see that it's a full track. So sometimes during the intros and outros, they might kind of remove some of the lows of the kick as a way to kind of make it easier for DJs to mix in and out of. So having the spectrum on here, as we have in the template, you can use this to see that it's the full kick playing. For example, just to show you an example, if I threw an EQ8 on here, like this, and see how it's cutting out the lows, if you listen to it, a lot of the energy's gone. And if we look at the spectrum, you can see it's not fully hitting. There's a duck down here. If we remove this, it's hitting nice and strong. So that's what you want to look for. An area in the song where the drums are playing by themselves, but the drums are full. That way we can actually extract some of the elements, which is what we're going to do next. So once you have like the loop set up like this and an area in the song that we're going to work on, I've already pre-created a bunch of the most common core sounds in these MIDI clips here. So if we open them up, you can see the kick has notes hitting on the, actually, let me open up the clip. You can see the kicks already hitting on the like 4 on the floor like that. The open hi-hats on that offhand beat. I set it up like this so it just takes a step out of things for you. So let's go ahead and grab these MIDI clips and move them over to the area that we'll be working on right here. Just like that. Now, once we have kind of our loop selected, we know the area that we're going to work on. We want to build our drum track in order of what we hear to be the most important elements. So let's have a listen to it just for a moment and kind of really listen to all the different sounds that you're hearing. So what I'm hearing the most is definitely the kick. So that's in a good order here. So we're going to start with the kick. I'm also hearing that open hi-hat. And I'm hearing a really loud clap. So I'm going to move this clap up. And then I'm hearing some kind of snares. And then a little bit of hi-hats. So now we just reorganized these clips in a way that the most important elements are loudest and first, and that way we can work on the most core elements first. So that said, with that identified, let's move into actually getting started with the kick. So usually the way that I like to do it is like this. So if we listen, what we want to do is find an area where the kick is playing by itself. That one has a kick, a clap, and a kick. So maybe there or here. I kind of like there. So then what you want to do is zoom in and press Command E at the beginning of the kick hit. And then find out where it ends right here. That's where like a hat comes in. So what we're going to do is cut it there. Then we have this little clip here. And then what you want to do is press Command J, or you can right click and press Consolidate. And this is going to create just a kick by itself. If you can see here, we zoom in on the clip. It's just this click, this kick by itself, as opposed to if we click to the left or right of it, you can see that the clip is the entire track. So we want just this kick like this. Then right click it, and I usually change the color. So that way we can easily identify where it is when we're kind of playing around here. Then the trick that I usually do is right click on it, and you want to press show in browser so that it shows up on the left hand side here. And then what you're going to want to do is click this little button here in Ableton 12, and you're going to want to press this, and it's the show similar sound function. So this will show the kick that we have and similar sounding kicks to that. Nice little trick. So then what I would do is open up this kick that we have here. And what you can do is you can grab it from here that you have, or from here, but drag it from here onto this drop sample area here. And what I've created is this like extraction preset that you can use. So in the kick area here, if we press it, we want to press S to flip back to our drums. Now we can hear it. Now we have that kick playing by itself. And what you can do is this filter envelope, if it's all the way down, we want to have that all the way up, and then we can bring down the filter a bit to try to isolate get rid of some of the high end. So you hear that's more or less just the kick. Then I usually bring up the velocity a bunch to maybe like 45. So it hits a little harder. Maybe bring it up to 50. And now what we have is the kick isolated a bit more in our actual drum rack, as well as a bunch that we can choose from on the top here. So let's go ahead and we can play this. And then play this. Super loud. Kind of listen through. And what you want to do is kind of aim for, try to build up your own drum rack here. Something like that. So that you have, now you have a drum rack that's filled with the actual kick from the tune. You also have a, we have the kick from the tune and 3 similar sounding ones. Like that. Once you have kind of that set up, what you can do is clear this over here, zoom out a little bit, and then what we're going to do is like listen to this loop. And we can click into the clip here, and we want to flick. We use the S key to flick back and forth between what we have and the reference track, so we can find a sound that's as similar as possible. So let's go ahead and do that. That's obviously pretty similar. This is the exact same kick. Let's try some of these other ones. So I like this one, the VEST bass drum. And the idea is when you're doing this, you kind of want to do it in time with the song. So you can almost kind of try to imagine your kick being as part of that song. So let's keep doing that. That's pretty good. That's a good first step. What we're going to want to do is a little bit of processing to get this to sound a little closer. So what I'm going to do is something that I like to do is let's go into this VES2, go over to controls, turn on the filter down here, and we're going to adjust this frequency a bit to get rid of some of the high end. Then what I've been doing a lot lately that I like to do is what you can do is if you click on like the little piano roll, it'll grab all of them like that. And then if you press Option, drag it down to the R kick. So now it's going to play these 2 kicks at the same time. So what I will do is go to the R kick over here, go into the EQ8 that I've already have set up for you, and click the 1 here to remove some of the lows. So now if we listen, it's playing both together. So what we're going to do is go over to the R kick, go to the output and bring that all the way down. Now you're listening to just that one shot that we have before, and we're going to slowly dial in this amount of the stolen kick until we can hear it adding something. Maybe around there, just like adding a bit of that presence and that high end there. Something like that. Now let's listen back and forth. Okay, sounding closer. I feel like it still sounds a little thin compared to the actual track. So the next move that I usually like to make is I'll go over to the far right here, and I have this drum bus set up. And what I would do is bring the drive all the way down, and let's turn it on and just hear what it sounds like. Let's roll down the damp a bit, just getting rid of some of that high end. And then what I would do is bring up this boom. So you can hear it adds a lot of the boom, right? And then just bring it up so you can kind of hear it. And then bring down the decay a bit. I'm gonna adjust how much it's ringing out. Maybe something like that. Then bring it all the way back down. And bring it in until you can kind of barely hear it. And then what I also would like to do is, I remember if we the beginning, sometimes this happens for my Ableton a lot. It was an F major, I want to say was the tune, right? F major. So what we can do is go back to the drum bus and then adjust the frequency so that it changes it so that it's at an F, just like that. And then in this example, I'm going to bring the dry wet all the way down and then slowly bring it up till you can hear it and then dial it back a bit. So let's slowly bring it up. Something like that. I'm going to increase the decay. Bring up the boom a little. That's pretty cool. I'm going to bring down the dry wet a little. I feel like that sounds pretty close. So there's a couple things to keep in mind when you're working on the kick drum in this way. Yes, you can actually just use the original, like the sample that we stole. So that's a pretty cool trick to isolate it on its own, drag it into this little rack that I've created for you, and adjust the filter frequency and the volume and a bit of the output to kind of just get it to sound like it did in the actual track, and just use the track from use the kick from the actual sample, the song that you are referencing. What I do like to do is to find something similar, so that way you're using an actual original one shot. Usually the one shot can sound a bit more, you know, professional and polished because it's like an actual sample as opposed to something that's stripped from a track. So that's important. And then what you can do is then also layer in the original track, the original kick, by making it so that the low end is coming from the actual proper one shot that you've selected, but you're bringing in some of the volume of it to create some of that extra character of that original kick drum and blend them together. Then throw them all together into a drum bus. The drum bus can be helpful for really adding a bit more of that low end to the kick. So I think that's a pretty good look at the kick. Once that sounds pretty good, remember, main things are to snatch the sound, make sure that the kick is playing in the right position. In this place, it was just a 4 on the floor, so just like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then use the similar sound function, play with the samples that you have, make some minor adjustments with the processing to try to make it sound a little bit better. Now, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to save time by downloading the template in this video, there's a link in the description to grab not only today's kick stealing template, but also over 21 full project files based on tracks from the Beatport Top 100 charts, with new files being added weekly. But knowing this better system for stealing kick samples from pro artists is really only one small piece of what goes into finishing high quality songs that get played out by DJs and signed by proper record labels. Seeing in detail how pro songs are composed, mixed, mastered, and structured is really the best way to fast track your productions to a quality level of the pros. So check out this video of playlists that teach you how to remake your favorite songs and use reference tracks to create pro level songs faster and easier than any other way that you've tried before.